In this first step, we're going to create the new file. Select File, New. The new Documents window will appear. When you see this window, you want to come over to the top. We have different types we can choose: photo, print, art, and illustration. I want you to find the one that says Web. Select Web, choose Web Most Common as your document size, and then just click Create. And this will create the file that you want to use. I'm going to resize this. If you drag it up here, it'll bring it in and it will attach it, so it's a little easier for you to use. Now I want to save this out right away. File and Save As. I'm going to navigate to my Documents folder. I'm going to save it as Type and 1. Make sure you leave it as a Photoshop file and hit Save. Click OK, and now it has saved this file as Type 1. Now where we're headed with this first step is you're going to be creating a file that looks like this. I'm just clicking on this tab, and these are all words that I think describe who I am as a person: teacher, loyal, devoted, swimmer, helpful, etc. I'm going to go back to your tab. So you're going to be creating these words. Come over to your type right here. Click the T for type. If you hold your mouse down, make sure you're on horizontal type tool. Once you choose that, you can come along the top and you're going to select a font that you like. I'm going to start with this Bebas New. I'm going to hit this, make sure it's set the way I want. I'm going to change my size to 72 points. I'm going to leave this at smooth, left align. I'm going to click here to select the color I want to use. So I'll scroll this up and down into an area that I want to work with these blues. I'll select a blue here and click OK. Now I'm just going to click one time in Release and type my first word, teacher. Now I'm ready to do a new one. So I'm going to click on this Move tool, come back, select the Type tool. So I'm just resetting the tool. I'm going to click one time, come up here, choose a new font I want to use. I'll try this one. I'm going to leave it at 72, smooth. Everything's the same, but I'm going to change the color out to sort of reddish, rosy color. And now I'm going to type my next word, mother. Hit the reset button here again. Come down and get the Type tool again. Choose a new font. I think I'll go with Algerian. I'm just going to change out the color again. I'm going to come into my greens. I think I'll choose, hold on a minute. I want to click off of this. Click first, then set these fonts. Now get this color. I'm going to come into my green, click that, and type my next word. Reset, click the type, click, start the section, choose a new font, leave the size or change it if you want. I'm going to come down into these orange, get that, and type swimmer. And I'm going to keep doing that, resetting, getting the type, and so on, until I end up with something that looks like this. Notice I've filled up the entire document with words, and you will need to do the same in your document that you're creating. To help me manage all of these words, I'm going to come over to my Layers panel. Here they all are. I'm going to click on the one at the top, scroll all the way down to the bottom, hold down the Shift key on my keyboard, and click on the last one. So now I've chosen all of them. I've highlighted them. I'm going to click this folder icon right here, and it puts them all into this folder. I'm going to double click it. I'm going to call it Words. So now I have a folder with all of those words loaded into that specific folder. I can turn it on and off, and I can edit very easily. You can take this folder now and duplicate it by right-clicking it and selecting Duplicate Group, giving it a new name. I'm going to call it Group 2 or Words 2, and click OK. And I can do this as many times as I want. Now that I have this chosen, I can come in and get my move tool, and I can come in here and start moving some of these words over and overlaying them. Notice there's two of everything, and just sort of overlaying and creating a more full looking document. So just grab them, move them around, sort of fill in. It's okay if it overlaps. Don't worry about that. Just go ahead and grab them, move them around, and place them as you wish to sort of create this final look to your file. I'll put it right about there. In this next step, I want to make sure these are collapsed because it gets a little messy if you have these all open. So just click on the arrows to collapse it. And what I want to do is load the photo I want to use for the project. Select File, Place Embedded. You should have downloaded a photo of yourself by now and place it in your Documents folder. Click on your photo you want to use and select Place. It'll come in with a big X across to complete the placement. Just select the check mark. And now you've got your photo in place. I want to rasterize this, so I'm going to right click it and I'm going to come up to rasterize layer. So right click right in here using your mouse and rasterize the layer. Now I want to add a mask, so I'll come down here and click the mask icon, and this is going to let me to edit this without damaging it. I can undo very easily any edits that I might make. I'm going to come over here to my eraser tool right here. Make sure you have the eraser. There's these two little tiny squares right there. Click them and make sure we've got white on the top and black on the bottom. Now I'm going to paint on this mask, but what I'm really doing is erasing. So I'm just going to come through and erase all of the background that I don't want on this photo. If I make a mistake, like I erase too much, I take this double-sided arrow and click it, and I can put it all back. So when it's set to black, it will put anything you've erased back. When it's set to white, it erases what you don't want to keep. And we want to clean this background up nice and neat so that we can have nothing left but the image of ourselves. I have most of this background erased, but I want to come through now. I'm still on make sure I'm on the mask. I'm going to come up and get a nice sort of smooth, soft brush right here. I'm going to open that up, select that, and I think I'll leave it settings all the same. And what I want to do is come back and get the edge of here, and I'm going to erase, but nice smooth strokes. I want to just clean this up, but I want it to be a sort of soft edge where my hair meets the edge of this document. So you can see, just sort of smoothing that out. And remember, just like before, if you get too much, and come back and swap it over here to black, and you can put some of whatever you've erased back. So I'm going to come back and add a little bit of that back in, and a little bit up here back in, and so on. So keep doing this till you've got this image cleaned up the way you want, and it's looking pretty nice and clean and smooth, and you're ready to move on to the next step. What we're going to do now is take all of these words and turn them into a Photoshop brush that we can use to fill in some of the areas that need filling in. I'm going to turn off the eye on my image here, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure I'm on these. I can see everything that's available. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to select this marquee. I'm going to fence in everything I see. Okay, I've got it all fenced in. Now I'm going to go to Edit and define a brush preset. Click that. I'm going to name it Words and click OK. You're going to notice there's all the words that I've been working with, and I'm going to click OK. So now what I've done, I want to undo this, so select and deselect. Now what I've done is I've created a brush out of all of the words that I've chosen. So I can click on any of these. There's the brush. And if I set this size up, I'm going to make a new layer over here for the brush. It's right here. And when I bring it out, there's all of the words. So as I come through, I can resize it. I can make it bigger or smaller as I wish. Okay. So I'm going to put it right about there. And I'm going to come through and click, and click, and click. And I'm filling in the white space using this brush I've created. I'm clicking and releasing. Don't click and drag. Click and release of the words that I've used in my document. And there we go. Maybe one more right there. Now I can change the size of this if I want. I can make it smaller. Maybe I want to fill in right here. So now that it's a brush, I can do whatever I want with it to create these words. I'm actually going to take it and drag it underneath. Try that again, right there. One more time. Okay, how about we drag these above instead? That might be easier. There we go. So I've got the words underneath and I still have my image. So I'll be able to come back through. I can keep adding these in. And I could, if I want, change the color of it. Maybe I want to add some light teal instead. So I could click that, resize it again, and come through and add a slightly different shade of blue if I want. You get to choose the colors. You just have to figure out how you want to lay these out. In this next step, I'm going to turn off the eyes on these layers. So I'm just down to this. I'm going to turn on my photographic image. I'm going to drag it to the top of my layers panel. Accidentally put it there. I actually want it above everything else. There we go. Collapse that back up. Now I have this here, and what I want to do is apply this mask to this image that I've gotten. So I'm going to take it, click on the mask, right click it, and apply the layer mask. Now it's applied, and it actually has really deleted everything behind it. Now that I've applied it, I'm going to make a few changes. Image and adjustments, and I want to turn this to a black and white image. So select black and white, and based on your image, you might want to adjust these settings here a little bit. It's up to you, but try to make sure it looks good. You've got some good details in light and dark, and click OK. So I've adjusted it. Next thing I want to do is image, adjustments again, and this time I'm going to go to posterize. And I'm going to posterize this image. I'm going to drag this up. I don't want to go too far. Maybe right about, let me try, it'll depend on your photo. I think I'm going to leave that right at maybe an 8, so I can still see the detail, and click OK. So I've taken the image and I've posterized it now. I'm going to go ahead and show you what we'll do next. In this step, we're going to add a new layer right underneath. Click on the new layer. So I've got my photo here and my layer here. And I want to start selecting areas of this gray and use it for my paintbrush. So select your magic wand. I'm going to start with this shade of gray. I'm going to click it. Whoops, have to get back on my image. Click here. Make sure you're on new. We're selecting new, and click. And I'm going to add to this selection by clicking on this. And I'm going to try to pick up all these shades of gray right in here that I'm seeing. Maybe a few more right there. So I'm going to try to pick those up. There's gray there, here, here. So you can see I'm just adding to the selection of this sort of very light gray that you see. Once I have them all selected, I'm going to come up to the layer right above. I'm going to turn this guy off for a second. Come up to this layer. You can see the selection still there. I'm going to go get my paintbrush. Make sure my words are chosen. I've got that chosen. right? I might make it a little bit bigger. Right about there maybe. Choose a color I want to work with. I'm going to click on this foreground color. I'm going to come into these blues. I'm going to start right about there, I think. You can choose any shades that you want to use, but stay in the same hue, which I'm going to do everything in blue for this. And I'm clicking and releasing and filling up this text with the words that I created using the paintbrush. There we go. So I've got the first ones in. Now I'm going to come back to my photo layer, click back here, select and deselect, because I need to get a whole new selection here. Go get my magic wand again. I'm going to pick up all of these grays in here. So I'm going to click it. I want to add to it. So I'm going to come and click on these grays that I'm seeing. Just go ahead and pick some. The grays may be a little bit different, but try to stay in this general range right here of the grays you want to work with. So I've got that. I'm again going to turn this off and go to the layer above. I'm going to go back into my foreground color, and I'm going to pick a slightly different or darker blue that I want to work with. I've got my paintbrush again, and I'm going to come back and fill in this section with this different shade of blue. Now as I'm looking at this, I'm thinking I'm going to want to maybe come back and make that even a little bit darker. But for now, I'll just go ahead and fill this up with my words. There we go. So now I've got this one done. Go back to the image, and you're going to keep repeating this process. Select and deselect. I need to pick up this shade of gray. I'm going to go get my magic wand. I'm going to start with a new selection. I am going to click on this gray. And notice when I clicked on it, it really did a pretty good job of grabbing most of it. I'm going to add this to it. Let's just do that again. I'm going to add to it. Click there. I want to get this spot. I'm going to get this spot and this spot right there. Okay, so I've done a new selection. I'm going to come back to turning that off, go to the layer above, go pick another blue that I want to use. I'm going to come down darker, click it. I've got my paintbrush I want to use again, so go get that. And I'm just going to come through and now click wherever this selection is and start filling it up with this new selection of blue. Now you're going to keep doing this until you have really filled up all of your different layers and little sections that you've created with these different shades of blue until it's completely filled. I'll come back here in a second and show you mine after I've added all of this text in. Now I've almost finished my typography portrait. I'm going to select and deselect, so I'm starting fresh. I'm going to go back to my image. I'm going to get my magic wand. I just want to get a few more areas I want to collect and put some text on right there. So I'm just coming back in, adding a few spots that I might want to add to. There we go. And I'm just going to finish up with this blue that I want to use. Just staying in my blues in here. Coming back in with my brush and finishing up. So I'm just finishing up the last parts, as you can see, adding these in. And this is what you want to do. So you just keep doing this process here until you've gotten all of your text sort of filled in. I'm going to select and deselect one more time. I want to come in and grab this section here. I'm going to add to it. I'm going to get this white and this gray that's sort of left behind. Let's see, got a few more spots in here I want to grab. I'm going to get that right there and that. So I'm just grabbing a few extra spots that have been left and not chosen yet. Grab this right there. That's too much. I'm going to undo that one. I don't want to get that. So I just deselected that. All right. Last time, come through, get my paintbrush. I'm going to pick a nice light blue here. Click OK and come back in and come over these spots. Actually, I think I'll go a little bit darker instead, this way, and come back in. I like that better. There you go. So hopefully you've got your image completely filled. Select and deselect. So I've got photo underneath. There's my text. I'm going to turn it back on because I want to use this to sort of balance this all out. I'm going to come over and I'm ready to move on to the next step. All right, in my final steps here, I want to fill this background in. I'm going to turn on, here are the words that I had before, so I can turn those on if I want. I can use these. Right now though, I want to try just using this one down here that I converted to all those blues earlier. Do you remember that? So I went into the backgrounds and I changed those to these blues. And I'm going to just add some more brush sizes in. Give myself a little bit of variety in my blues that I've chosen. Okay, so I've got this in the background. Now I can leave it like this if I want. Or I can make some more changes. Maybe I want to bring these larger versions of the words in. I'm going to turn these on. But what I want to do with these is I want to add maybe a different effect to that. Maybe I'll do multiply on that. Come get this one. Come through. Choose something different. I'll try a lighten. So I'm just playing around now with these different settings on my layers to see if I can come up with something that I really like in terms of the mix. If I want though, I can just turn these off completely and stay with just this layer. Play around though and figure out what you want to do as far as turning on your layers, changing out the different modes that you might want to use on the layer through here. Try out different ones. Do you find one that you really like? Oh, I really like this soft light myself. Depending on your photos and what you've done though, different things might look more appealing to you. Now I've got that done. I'm going to come over here and I'm going to add an FX right here. Click on FX and go to blending options. I'm going to bring up the blending options for this. I'm going to add a drop shadow to this photographic image. If I click on the word drop shadow, I can drop it out a little bit more, send out the spread a little bit more if I want. You can try different things. If you don't really like the drop shadow, I'm going to pull it out right about there, I think. You can also try like the overlay or a stroke or an outer glow. Here's the outer glow if I want. So I can play around with the outer glow, maybe change the spread or bring it back in. If I decide I don't like it, I just turn it back off. So I've got this outer glow going. And you can play around with that until you're happy with the results and click OK. And now you've got your typography portrait done. In this last step, what I want to do is I want to save this out. So make sure you do File Save. Save it out as a Photoshop file. File Save As if you want to save it into a different type format. And this time there's my entire file. Save it as Photoshop first. The second time, click here, come down here, and I want you to save it as a JPEG. All right, and click Save. Set it up to high so it's a large file, but it'll look really nice and crisp and clear, and click OK. So now if you go and check your folders, you'll see in your folder icon, in your Documents folder, you've got your Photoshop file, which you need, and you've also got the final file. If I go to View and Extra Large Icons and pull this over, Scroll down. I can see here is my completed JPEG of my work that I can put on the web if I want. But I also have my Photoshop file. I can come back and edit and play around with this and change it at any time.